legacy means. Tell me what will your legacy be?
Welcome, everybody, to the Week 4 Postgame show. I'm your host, Owen Reed. I'm joined by John, our intern over the summer, and we're going to talk about the games here in Week 4. We had a lot of close ones. All three games were within 11 points, and it was a very entertaining night all in all. But first, we're going to talk about what was probably, in my eyes, the game of the night, but they were all close, so anyone could take the cake. But we're going to start with the Mob versus RI Wave, where the RI Wave gets a 3-point win in overtime over the Mob. John, your thoughts on the game altogether and just how the RI Wave was able to pull this off against a very talented Mob team.
I thought it was a very close game. Watching it, both teams were putting up good numbers. The starting five for RI Wave all went double digits for points. But I think it really came down to a lot of key plays, and I think the biggest key play was definitely Jared Hansen, number 4, with the 2 steals to take it away and get an extra 4 points for the team to make that comeback.
Yeah, this game was close all the way through, and those 2 steals came in overtime, so that was 4 out of their 6 points. And with only 2 minutes in overtime, every single second counts. And to get 2 easy points, or 2 easy buckets, 4 easy points, I think that definitely gave the RI Wave the advantage. I thought for sure we were going to have our second career ever double overtime, and it's going to come down to a free throw again, as we had it last week. But the RI Wave were able to get those steals like you mentioned. But this game was great all around, and I think come playoff time, this might be a matchup to watch out for. Both the Wave and the Mob, they're great teams. And Mob, they just lost 2 in a row against 2 very talented teams. So look for them to be definitely angry and upset and come out with vengeance in this next one. The Mob, their leading scorer was Sebastian, and he had 22, and then Daquan Durham had 20. And they didn't really have anyone else in double digits, which I think that might have been the downfall because the RI Wave, they were passing the ball. Everybody scored, like you said. Touch a little bit more on the RI Wave and how they were all able to score.
It was really tough. They were moving the ball around a lot. I think they were not afraid to go into the net and score because I think Mob played a great defensive game. They had about 5 blocks coming from they had 5 blocks total, and 4 came from Sebastian Delone, and they were absolutely killing it on rebounds. They had 51 rebounds the entire game, and most of those coming from defense. And I think that RI Wave was just able to keep up with points wise. In the beginning, Mob was doing really well with 3-point shooting. I think it was I want to say it was number 11 for
the Mob.
For the Mob. Yeah, in that first quarter he went 3 for 4 on 3-point shots in the beginning, and that solidified a big lead. But RI Wave, I think they're just a really tough team when it comes to offense. They're hard to stop. And they know how to move around the ball. They talk, and they come up with plays. And I think all around, every player on their starting 5 can shoot the ball and really get in and score. So I think they use that to their best of their ability, even against the Mob, who are playing great on defense. So
absolutely, I think the RI Wave, they even had a few guys missing last night, like Cody and Devon, and I heard Colin is going to be out for a while. But their team is stacked from top to bottom. They're a team that you could put any single one on the court, and they're all starting caliber players. And then the Mob, when you have that much talent on the other end, the Mob can only defend so much and do so much. Like you said, they had 51 rebounds. They did the right things. It just came down to those key plays. And I think the experience of Jared Hansen and all of the RI Wave is what ultimately got them that win coming down the stretch.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on here to the final game of the night. So this game was between DTMB and the Reapers. The Reapers undefeated going into this game. And by the sounds of it, the Reapers are the team to beat. They are now 4-0. They have yet to lose, and this team is damn good. And they take out DTMB, who definitely gave them a run for their money. Ethan Austin putting up 44 points. But the Reapers, they're the team to beat right now. What are your thoughts on the Reapers and how this game went altogether?
Obviously watching this game, both teams were doing insane on offense. It was just constant. This was our highest scoring game, honestly, in a while, but our highest scoring game of the night. So, going from these close games that were at most 60 points to their scoring half of that within the first quarter was pretty insane to watch. But, Jay Sean Edwards and Kevin Hughes played amazing. Both had 33 points. And were just also very good on rebounds, getting the most for their team. They were just in steals as well. Overall, they were playing great that game. But when it comes to DTMB, as you said, Ethan Austin had 44 points. But just him having 44 points and the rest of his team, they got to keep up, and that's what the Reapers were doing. They're all around their team was putting up points and making good plays. So
Absolutely. The Reapers, the first 3 games of the year, they focused on the defensive side of the basketball, got a bunch of steals, forced a bunch of turnovers, and they were able to get those scrappy points and able to win in that way. In this game, it felt like a track meet from the tip off. It felt like they just kept running back and forth the whole game. And the Reapers showed that not only can they win a slow paced game with those little track meets, but they can also win the track meets. They win the track meets and the slow games. Sorry. And I think that's a very dangerous team. And we talked about early in the year, Kevin Hughes was like the guy for the Reapers. But here, Jay Sean Edwards, this game and last game, he's really stepped it up. And I think this is no longer just Kevin Hughes' team. I think this is a dynamic duo that obviously is in a great position to win this whole thing because they're 4-0. Nobody's beaten them. They've beaten a lot of good teams, and they're definitely on high alert for all those other teams that are trying to get a championship.
Yeah,
But I don't want to throw
I
any
gotta
shade to DTMB.
yeah, I
Go
gotta
ahead.
say,
with Jay Sean Edwards, he was just dominant around the rim. He was getting rebounds. He was having putbacks. He was just absolutely dominant around the rim, and it was tough for everyone else to really box him out and isolate him. But he would just force his way through. So that's all I wanted to say about him.
Yeah, when you have a guy he's shooting 69% and he grabs 20 rebounds, like that's hard to stop. And on top of that, I mean, yeah, you can look at it, but just from like the perspective, Kevin Hughes is their number one guy. And if you're not number one guy is putting up numbers like that, watch out. However, DTMB, like you said earlier, Ethan, he played great, scored 44. They were missing Joey Niederberger this game, who was a great defensive player. He was out with a little knee injury, but still, like you said, DTMB, they gotta get Ethan some help and be able to take that scoring load off of him and really just move the basketball and force the Reapers and every team that they play to guard them. So just give me your thoughts on DTMB and what is their strategy going into next week and how are they going to get a win? Because next week they play the Mob, who is coming off a loss, but the Mob is a great team.
yeah, it's gonna be tough.
For DTMB, but I know offensively they can keep up. Tonight they played great, but the Reapers just wanted more, and I feel like offensively they're going to be great, but on defense it's going to be a struggle because Mob, we've seen them play. They are a force to be reckoned with, not only on outside the line, but also in and around the rim. So I think they're going to have to, with number 7 being gone, they're going to have a guy in and around the rim that's going to be able to make some plays and, stop some.
Mob, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a very good comparison for DTMB, anybody watches the NBA, is the Indiana Pacers. They're going to run up and down the court all day long, and they're going to score. But it's going to come down to them being able to get stops. And I think if DTMB can get those stops, they're also going to be a dangerous team. And now we're going to head into the final game of the night, which was actually our first game of the night. So our first game of the night, this was actually the closest game of the night. It was a 2-point game between the Party Crashers and Immortals. Party Crashers get a win behind Nick Berry and Kevin Flynn, who each went for over 20 points. I'm going to let you take this whatever route you want to go.
Yeah, so I think
I'll talk about the Party Crashers first. Nick Berry, the first 2 weeks, I didn't really see much out of him, but, coming into these past 2 weeks, he's been showing himself as another key player for Party Crashers. As well as obviously number 3, Kevin Flynn. He's always gotten over 20 points the past 4 weeks we've seen played. But Nick Berry, he went 53.8% for field goals. He was also really key on free throws. He's showing himself now as another guy who's willing to go to the net and score. Which I didn't really see much of the first 2 weeks, but I think Party Crashers are starting to just dust off the cobwebs and get the gears rolling. But I'm starting to see a team starting to get put together. I feel like late in the season they're gonna be a team to beat. But yeah,
I think the Party Crashers, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, they just weren't hitting their shots, and tonight or last night everybody shot over 50% besides Kevin Flynn. And like Kevin Flynn's their guy, he's going to take those lot of shots. So it's understandable that he's not always going to hit that 50% mark. But everybody else was making shots. I think that's how they were able to pull away this 2-point win. However, the Immortals, they still played a good game. They only lost by 2. And I think the one issue with the Immortals is their guy Kyle Wolf. He shot 1 for 10, which, I mean, he's one of those guys on their team that they kind of rely on scoring. And when you have a guy like that not score, he goes 1 for 10, 10%, which is obviously not good at all. But when he goes like that, you really need someone to step up. And Freddie Milligan tried a little bit, but I think all in all, if Kyle Wolf had a better game, I think we could be looking at a different winner here.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But this game, it came down to the stretch. It was the first game of the night. How was the Party Crashers able to close this one out?
Watching this game, I think it really came with their offense. But in past games, Kevin Flynn was their main offense, scoring wise. He was unafraid to go to the rim, and he could shoot outside. But I think overall their offense came together throughout their entire team, especially Nick Berry, who's just on the come up right now, scoring wise. But I also have to say they did really well on defensive plays towards the end. They had a couple steals, and they were able to draw fouls for them to get to the free throw line and score those extra points. So.
Yeah, like if you look at the box score, you'll see each quarter was close, but I think this is definitely a game of runs where a team would get up by 6 or 7, then they would close it down to 1 or 2, and then they'd go up 2, up 3. It was just close all around, and then I think right at the end, like you said, the Party Crashers really just focused in on the defensive end and got those crucial stops. And then when you make crucial stops, you get easy buckets, and that's how they're able to pull it away at the end, even though they just won by 2. It was definitely an entertaining first game of the night. Now we're going to head into a little bit of a preview for next week. So next week we have the week off, actually. So it would be the following week, Week 5, it's going to be on 7-10 and Norfolk. And the first game of the night is going to be the Reapers versus Party Crashers. I would ask you what your prediction is, but it's probably going to be the Reapers are going to win over the Party Crashers. So what do the Party Crashers have to do in order to get that upset win over the Reapers?
I think watching them play today, I think the Immortals are a pretty good defensive team, especially on rebounds. I think they're one of the better teams when it comes to rebounds. But for the Party Crashers, I think they just need to really keep up offensively and kind of isolate. I'm going to have to say isolate number 10 on the Reapers. Stop him from getting rebounds around the net, especially offensive rebounds, which he got a lot of last week. And I think, they're just going to have to keep up offensively, which I've seen them steadily starting to do is pick up on offense. But I think defensive-wise, just isolate and make sure to get those key stops, draw fouls.
Like you said, dust off the cobwebs and really get that shot to go down. I'm going to have to agree with you there. I think the Reapers are probably going to win, and you probably agree with that, right? So definitely dust off the cobwebs and see what they can do. In the next game, Immortals, RI Wave. I think RI Wave probably has a little bit better of a roster, but who do you have winning this game and why?
I'm going to say RI Wave, just because I think all around, overall, especially from week one, they're a whole different team. They're really starting to mesh together, and overall, everybody on their bench and on their starting lineup can score and really be a key player in the game, as you said before. So I'm gonna have to give it to RI Wave.
Mm-hmm. And here's the chance, Joey, if you're listening, and we'll throw you some love. Joey actually played really well in that game. He had 10 points, hit 3 threes, and definitely gave the RI Wave the boost they needed to get that overtime win. So, Joey, there are your flowers. You don't get any more. Sorry. But final game next week. I think this is going to be the game of the week. It's going to be the Mob versus DTMB. And I think this game is going to be a very, very close one. We touched on a little bit when we were talking about DTMB and how they were going to have to be able to beat the Mob. So we already touched on this one, but I want to say that I think the Mob is probably going to win, and I think it's due to their size. I think they're just a much bigger team. And DTMB, like you said earlier, they can score a bunch, but I think the Mob size is going to really, really make it hard for Ethan and the rest of DTMB to score on the inside. So then they're going to have to knock down shots. And I don't know if they have it. Not that I don't think they have it in them, but I think the Mob is going to be able to control the pace of this game and really win. But I want to hear your thoughts on how DTMB and the Mob's game is going to go. I think it'll be close regardless.
Yeah, I think
I agree with you. But I gotta mention also DTMB losing their Defensive Player of the Year player is, I think, going to be big for the Mob to take over, because losing such a key defensive player and who we've seen in the first 2 weeks play is going to allow them to really bully their way up to the net, which is what they mostly do throughout games. So it's going to make them a lot easier. So I think DTMB is going to really have to focus on defense rather than offense, which they're very, very good at.
Absolutely. And to wrap up this podcast, I'm just trying something now. We're going to go with your player of the week. I'll give you mine first, give you some time to look it up. Player of the week, who just had a great performance, not necessarily the top scorer, but just who had a great performance. I'm going to go with, I mentioned him earlier, Jay Edwards from the Reapers, put up 33. First couple weeks he was quiet, but he's really coming to his own, and he's been playing great. And 33 and 20, you can't deny that, along with 3 steals and 5 assists. I think Jay he played great, and I think he's one of the reasons why this Reapers team is going to make a long run. But John, your turn. Who's your player of the week?
I'm going to say Jay
Sean Edwards as well, but I also got to shout out Jared Hansen, number 4 on RI Wave. I think he was a great leader out on the court, and he was making a lot of key stops that were great to watch. So, and I think he's their top scorer on their team. So, I think he's my player of the week for last week. So,
absolutely, and he shot crucial free throws in that game. He shot 87% from the free throw line, 7 for 8, which in this league, you don't get a lot of free throws. So when you get them, you got to make sure you make them. And that's exactly what Jared did. So definitely another key reason why the RI Wave was able to win. But that's all we have for the Massachusetts post-game show. I'm Owen. That's John. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.